Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ. So we will continue our discussion on economy. We are in the module monetary system, and so far we have completed 4 sessions in that. In the first session we have talked about what you mean by money, what are the different types of money, the evolution of money, all those things we have discussed. And in the second session we talked about different types of bank accounts. We have covered savings account, current account, fixed deposit, recurring deposits, post office accounts, all the types of post office accounts and everything. We have also talked about the concepts of net time liability, net demand liability, or net time deposit, demand deposit, NDTL, net demand time liability, all these concepts as a prelude to the discussion on the concepts of money supply. And in the third session, that was the most important session where we discussed about the different concepts of money supply like M1, M2, M3, M4, all those concepts we have discussed. We have also talked about reserve money, that is M0, and we have also discussed about money multiplier M, and I've told you money supply is actually M into M0, that is a reserve money and M. Okay, we have also discussed about different concepts like M1. You can see here M1 is known as narrow money, okay, because it is 100% liquid, and we have seen the contents in M1. You can see here M1, the components are, firstly you have currency, so most liquid, and then demand deposits, so not time deposits, demand deposits. So when you talk about demand deposits, savings account, part of the savings account is demand deposit, and part of the savings account is time deposit. So part of the time savings account is this, okay, included here, and the entire current account, because entire current account is demand deposit. So demand deposit is completely included, total demand deposits. Other deposits, you can see the third component, that is the deposits which is there in the Reserve Bank by some personalities and some institutions like IMF, World Bank, etc. They might have deposited in the RBI. So, and similarly the ex-RBI governors also might have some deposits in RBI. So those will be counted in OD, but OD is being so negligible. Generally M1 is like MC, currency plus demand deposit. Then when it comes to M2, and why it is called as narrow money, because it is 100% liquid money, and it's a small concept, okay, narrow concept, so narrow money. M2, the same contents which we have discussed in M1 will be part of M2, plus savings account deposit with post office banks, that will also be added. So M1 we have discussed currency plus DD plus OD, these three will be there, plus savings account deposits with post office. See, in post office also there will be savings account, fixed deposit, recurring deposit, no current account. So savings account portion will be there, that is also demand deposit. Then M3 is M1 plus what we have left out in M1 is actually time deposits with the banks, right? So that will be added here. So M1 is currency plus demand deposits plus other deposits. Now we are adding the time deposit also, and we can club this together, time deposit and demand deposit, and we can write it as NDTL. So currency plus NDTL and other deposits. Other deposits is actually negligible. So currency plus net demand time liability is your M3. Okay, that means currency plus the total deposits with the bank is your M3. And M3 is a broad concept, so we call it as broad money. Now the fourth one is M4. What is M4? M3 plus what we have left out is the post office accounts, right? So with M3, we will be adding the total deposits with post office banks. Okay, so when we talk about narrow money and broad money concept, in these two concepts, post office accounts are not mentioned. M2, savings part of post office is there. M4, entire post office accounts are part of it. So this is the least liquid money. So you can classify like this: M1 to M4, most liquid M1 to least liquid M4. Okay, so I hope this is clear for all of you. Then we have talked about money supply. Money supply, when you talk about, we primarily talk about, M3, that is the purchasing power in an economy. Okay, now what will happen if the purchasing power increases? If money supply increases, what is actually going to happen? As I told you, money supply is the purchasing power in an economy. So money supply increases, purchasing power will increase automatically. When the purchasing power increases, demand will increase in the economy. When the demand increases, that lead to demand pull inflation. Okay, so demand pull inflation will be there, inflation will be there. Now how RBI can control inflation? The obvious thing that RBI have to do is purchasing power have to come down. Now how to do that? Money supply have to come down. Now how to do that? The money supply you have to reduce, so contractionary monetary policies RBI supposed to follow. That we are going to discuss in the next session, different policies. In this session, today's session, we will be talking about RBI, the functions of RBI, the objectives of RBI. You can get a lot of questions. Probably you'll get multiple choice questions, and in mains also you can get functions of RBI. So that part will be covered today. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the monetary policies, and where I'll talk about contractionary and expansionary policy. Okay, and then we will discuss about different other policies which are not discussed, like quantitative easing, tapering, everything in the next session. So this is okay. One more concept we have discussed is this one: reserve money or high powered money or primary money. There is a currency which is held by public. It is only the currency, okay? And this is M0 is actually currency plus reserves, the cash reserves with RBI, like in terms of CRR, banks will keep some reserves with RBI. That is also part of this, and other deposits. And then we have discussed about actual money supply. So money supply is M into M0. So, and money multiplier is what? M, that is 5.6 times. That means if 100 rupees printed, the effective worth of that 100 rupee which is printed by RBI in the market is 560. You have to multiply it with 5.6, money multiplier. So 100 rupees is the M0, but you have to multiply with M, that is 5.6, and money supply will be 560. I have explained that here. How is it actually going to happen? Let's suppose government printing 100 rupee. Government obviously will buy something from A, firm A or some person. So he will deposit in some bank, SBI. So 100 rupee transaction already happened for the 100 rupee which is printed. And then this bank will keep the mandatory statutory requirements, that CRR, SLR, etc. And 20% bank will keep with themselves and lend the maximum 80%. 80 rupee bank will lend. So B will borrow that and B will buy something from C. So now you can see 180 rupee transaction happen. C will deposit in some other bank that 80 rupee, PNB, and PNB will keep 20%, that is 16 rupee, and lend 64 rupee. And this will be borrowed by D, and D will buy something from E. Now you can see all started from that 100 rupee. That 100 rupee is actually circulating in the market. So as of now, 100 plus 80 plus 64, that is 244 transaction happen. Now this person will deposit in some other bank, ICICI, or even to SBI itself, which again come into circulation. And that's how I told you 100 rupee printed, the effective value in the market will be 560. Okay. So this is what we have discussed, and we have discussed about monetary system in India. Under which system currency is printed, minimum reserve system we have discussed, and what is that system and everything we have discussed. The reasons for increase in forex in the recent past also we have discussed. Okay, so in this session we will be going to talk about RBI, Reserve Bank of India. So as you know, RBI is the central bank of the country. That is, RBI is the apex monetary institution. So apex monetary institution, and most of you know what I'm going to tell in this session. So if you have already attended this session in your coaching or something, there is no point in attending this. Okay, so this is for others. So apex monetary institution. So when it was established on 1st April 1935. Under which act? RBI Act. Okay, so RBI Act 1934. Okay, under which committee, based on which committee's recommendation it was established? It was established on the basis of Hilton-Young committee recommendation. So Hilton-Young committee. Okay, now was it established in private sector or public sector? It was, when it was established in private sector. Okay, so that has to be there in your mind. It was established in private sector with a paid up capital of 5 crore. Okay, now the question is why private sector? Because majority of the share is actually held by the private sector. The question is whether it is desirable or not. And obviously it is not desirable. Central bank, apex monetary institution. So private sector is not desirable. But you know, 1935 time it was the British government. They are not much responsible towards Indian concern. So they don't care much about this, right? But after, you know, freedom, we have nationalized it. So it was nationalized on 15th Jan 1949 RBI, nationalized means government purchased all the shares. Okay. Now when it was established, where it was established? It was established at Calcutta in 1935, and in 1937 the headquarter was shifted to Mumbai. 1937 headquarter shifted to Mumbai. Now what is the financial year of RBI? This was also asked as a prelims question before. What is the financial year of RBI? Financial year of RBI is 1st July to 30th June. 1st July to 30th June. Okay, now what is the rationale behind this? Why it was kept 1st July to 30th June? Otherwise it is generally 1st April to 31st of March, right? Now here the rationale is RBI have to monitor all the banks, apex monetary institution. So RBI have to control the banks also. All the banks are actually controlled by RBI in India. So if RBI is also keeping 1st April to 31st of March, RBI will be more concerned about handling their accounts before the end of the year, right? Just before the end of the year, RBI will be more concerned about handling their account, and RBI won't get time to supervise the bank's account. So once the bank's accounts are closed on 31st March, RBI will get some time to monitor, supervise, and then after that RBI can take care of their account. Okay, so that is the rationale behind this. So this you need to keep in mind. This is a very possible question, prelims question. Let's look into the functions of RBI. Okay, so functions of RBI. So first and most important one, it is a currency authority. Currency authority. It is a sole authority to print money. We have already discussed under which system? Under minimum reserve system. What is minimum reserve system? Under minimum reserve system, RBI have to keep minimum amount of money, or let's say 200 crore worth gold or foreign security or government security with RBI, and government can print unlimited amount of currency as required by the government. Okay, so under minimum reserve system, unlimited currency can be printed upon keeping this 200 crore. Out of this 200 crore, at least 115 crore should be in terms of gold. Even the entire 200 can be in terms of gold. Rest can be foreign securities or government securities of government of India. Okay, what currencies are printed? From 1 rupee and above, right? See, 50 paisa and 1 rupee are printed by 50 paisa and 1 rupee is printed by the finance ministry. Finance ministry. And who signed this? The finance secretary signed this. Finance secretary signed this, right? So which is done as per which act? Currency and Coinage Act. Currency and Coinage Act. Okay, so under this act, 50 paisa and 1 rupee is actually printed by the finance ministry, and finance secretary signed this. Every other note RBI governor will sign. So from 2 rupee onwards, 10, 20, all this actually printed by RBI. So it is a sole authority to print currency. So what about the second function? Government's bank, right? So there is no need to have any confusion here. RBI is the government's bank. So the central and the state government have to maintain an account with RBI mandatorily, and all the transactions, all the financial transactions of government is undertaken through RBI. Okay, so central and state governments have to maintain account with RBI. All financial transactions are undertaken through the RBI. And what about next one? It advises government on financial issues, right? So advisory function, advises government on financial issues. Now it lends to government. We have already told you in case of revenue deficits and all, RBI lent to government, or to meet some expenditure crisis also RBI lent to government. And RBI also manages the borrowing program of government. How to manage the borrowing program? By selling bonds and by buying back the bonds, and all those things are actually done by RBI. Okay, so lends to government as well as manages borrowing program of the government. Okay, so this has to be kept in mind. RBI manages the borrowing program of the government. Now, how it manages the borrowing program of the government? By selling the government bonds or by buying the government bonds. By selling the government bonds, what is actually going to happen? RBI is collecting money from the public by selling the bonds and giving it to the government. Okay, so selling means giving money to government by collecting from the public. Buying means buying back the bonds. In 2015 budget, a Public Debt Management Authority (PDMA) was actually proposed, but it was not implemented. We will have to discuss about that later. We'll discuss that later. So to manage the government's debt, another body was proposed because RBI have many other functions or many other role to do which are more important than managing the borrowing program or managing the debt of the government. For that, PDMA, Public Debt Management Authority, was proposed in 2015-16 budget. We will discuss about this. Okay. Now, next function, Bankers Bank. So as I have discussed with you, government's banks, so government have to keep account with RBI. Similarly, all the banks have to keep account with RBI. So banks maintain accounts and reserves with RBI. So account and reserves in terms of CRR, etc. with RBI, right? So this is one of the function. Now, secondly, it lends to banks in good and bad times. Okay, sometimes the banks are in need of money, so through repo, okay, you can get money from RBI. There are different other instruments also to get marginal standing facility. We'll be discussing about all these things. So what I want to tell you is it lends to banks good times and in bad times, and that is why RBI is known as lender of the last resort. Even in the crisis situation also, RBI will lend to the banks. Okay, so lends to banks in good and bad times. So lender of the last resort. This is why RBI is known as lender of last resort. And next, it actually provides clearinghouse facility to settle the interbank claims related to checks and everything, ATM transactions and all these things. So it provides clearinghouse facility, like using each other's ATMs, checks, etc. Okay. And like what I've discussed in case of government, here RBI advise the banks to do and not to do certain things. So advise banks to do and not to do certain things. And next is one of the most important functions, supervisor of banks. Supervisor of banks. So RBI actually regulate all the banks and partially or wholly almost all the financial institutions. Okay, so RBI is the regulator of the banks and most of the financial institutions. So in that way, RBI function as the supervisor of banks. Fifth, superior of payment system. Superior of payment system. So RBI actually regulates the norm in dealing with the money transfers within and outside the country. Okay, so different means of payment. What are the different means of payment? So firstly, we will talk about check. You know that. Okay, then we have demand draft, DD. Okay, then there is something known as pay order. Okay, so but what is pay order and what is the difference between demand draft and pay order? It is actually similar to demand draft only, but this is within the city. Pay order is within the city. Okay, and then NEFT, National Electronic Fund Transfer, and then RTGS, Real-Time Gross Settlement System. Okay, so all these are. Now what is the difference between these two, NEFT and RTGS? See, first thing, this RTGS is more than 2 lakh, right? At least 2 lakh should be there. So in case of NEFT, less than or more than 2 lakhs, any amount is okay. So NEFT, any amount is fine. Now in case of NEFT, it is actually net amount is transferred. And in case of RTGS, on the spot transaction is done on spot. It means, see, if you are making a payment of, let's say 2 lakh, okay, so immediately this 2 lakh is done, another 2 lakh immediately done, another 3 lakh immediately done, another 3 lakh immediately done. But in case of NEFT, this is how it is going to happen. Let's suppose SBI, the transaction is between SBI and ICICI. So from SBI to ICICI, let's say there is a transaction of 2 lakh, okay, and from ICICI to this SBI, there is another transaction of, let's say, 3 lakh, and one more transaction of, let's say, 4 lakh. So you can see from SBI 2 lakh is gone, to SBI 7 lakh is coming. So the difference between the 7 minus 2 lakh, that is 5 lakh, will be transferred, okay, after some time from ICICI to SBI. Not immediate transfers, not on the spot transfer. Now next is IMPS. What is IMPS? Immediate payment system, right? So it is available for 24 hours, okay, like RTGS, similar to RTGS. And what is here similar to NEFT, it is actually any amount can be transacted, okay, any amount can be transferred. So any amount similar to, you know, NEFT, and 24 hours similar to RTGS. But in case of NEFT, if it is between the same banks, any time is fine, okay, 24 hours it is there. Then we have in different internet gateways through card payment system, okay, Visa, MasterCard, all those things are there, Rupee, etc. So internet payment gateways, okay, through different card payment system. And then we have e-wallets like Paytm, Oxygen, etc. E-wallets. Then the postal order, okay, so it is a draft of the post office. Then money order, nowadays e-money order, okay, so this Bheem, UPI, all this another things are there. So these are some of the functions of RBI. The next important function is custodian of forex reserve. Custodian of forex reserves. Only RBI and authorized agencies can deal with forex, okay, so custodian of forex reserve. Next, exchange control management. Exchange control management. So RBI actually regulates the norms with respect to conversion of foreign currency and rupee and vice versa, okay. So RBI regulates these norms, and this is what you call as convertibility. And we have complete current account convertibility, capital account partially convertible. So, and it also manages, you know, exchange rate of rupee. It stabilizes exchange rate rupee. So that we have discussed till 1991 we followed a fixed system. That was our exchange rate system. Then from 93 on 92 we have followed, after the BOP crisis, LERMS, liberalized exchange rate management system, in which partly fixed and partly floating. That means 60% was fixed, flexible or floating, 40% was fixed. 93 onwards we are floating exchange rate system. But our exchange rate system is not completely floating, it is managed float. Why it is known as managed float? Because RBI can interfere in the market. How RBI can interfere? Let's suppose this is a demand of dollar and this is a supply of dollar. There is a quantity and there is a price of dollar in rupee. If let's suppose demand is more, if demand is more, what will happen? This is the initial position like this. This is the initial position, the red one. Now the demand is more, so demand curve shift rightward. So what RBI will do, when the demand curve shift rightward, you can see there is an increase in price of dollar. That means 67 to, let's say, 74. This is what you call as depreciation of rupee or appreciation of dollar. Okay. Now what RBI can do, as per this, let's say this is 10% increase in demand. If RBI can pump that much forex dollar in the market, so 10% demand, 10% supplied, so it can be neutralized. So the new equilibrium will be similar to that of the old equilibrium. So it will remain as 67. So this is how you can manage the exchange rate. Then publication of monetary data. Publication of monetary data. Because RBI only have all the data, right? So which data? Report on currency and finances. Report on currency and finances. It is an annual report which is published by RBI. Then RBI Bulletin, it's a monthly magazine of RBI. Controller of credit. Controller of credit. Okay, it regulates credit creation capacity of banks through monetary policy, right? See, we have discussed here credit creation process. So how RBI can regulate it? How RBI can regulate it? You can see here. As I have told you here, 20% is kept with the banks to maintain the statutory requirements, right? If RBI is increasing that, See, instead of this 20%, it can be 25%. Then the banks can lend only 75 rupee, right? Like this, RBI can reduce also, RBI can increase also. So the RBI can actually manage the credit creation process. That's why RBI is known as controller of credit. Then finally,